Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name is Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. You know, when you have one of those weeks and it flies by and you get to the end and you have no idea what you did? I've had one of those weeks. It's been an absolute blur. So I'm actually going to enjoy sitting down and reflecting back a little bit on what I did because, to be honest, I'm not sure that it was that much, but maybe once I start talking, it will end up being something of interest. Who knows? And that's kind of why I like to do these videos weekly for my own sake, just to kind of reflect back on what I'm doing and to not let the weeks and months just fly by without having sort of checked in with myself and keep a track of what's going on. The weather was really beautiful earlier in the week. A couple of days when I got home from work, it was like 18, 20, really beautiful and warm, blue sky, sunny. So I took the opportunity on those days to go for long walks when I got home. Probably spent about an hour each of those couple of days out enjoying the bush, choosing different ways to go and just taking my time and sort of stopping in places and just enjoying it really. And it's funny because I know that I have known this bush for my entire life. Like my grandparents lived here and now I live here, and I was visiting from when I was really tiny. And there are still parts of it that I've never ever seen or walked through because there's really thick sections of tea tree that you're just not able to get to, but you can see like animal trails that go through it and everything. So I have particular sort of paths or areas that I'll walk through, but just sort of wandering off from those a little bit and like finding a nice, beautiful open space with a gorgeous tree in there. Uh, just every single time I walk through the bush, I find something new and interesting. And this week I saw plenty of animals. I saw deer and a fox and rabbits and the big grey kangaroos, as well as like the smaller, like dark, furry kind of wallabies. Also saw an echidna. And I also saw a lot of birds and a few that I hadn't seen before. So I have an app on my phone. It's called the Aussie Bird Count, and I use it to identify birds. You can put in the size and the color and the shape, and it will give you birds recommendations based on your area. Like they show you a map of where these birds have been sighted before. And then once a year, I think it's in October, they do a bird like audit where they get people to log in and to record the birds that they see in their area on that day to build up data about the bird population. And so one of the birds that I saw was the golden whistler, which is really pretty. There he is there. And he was just sitting in a tree really close to me, just jumping around and singing. And there were lots of like the little females, like all flying around. So that was really cool. I saw another different bird, but I don't remember the name of it. I tried to look it up just before and I don't remember what it was, but this one really stood out to me. And of course, I saw blue wrens. We have plenty of those in our bush as well. So maybe I'm becoming a bit of a birder. Not really, but what I do like to do is when you first walk into the bush, you hear the birds making sort of like emergency noises. Like they chirp a lot more, and you can hear some really close to you and then some further away, and they're like um, letting the community know that there's a stranger encroaching on their area. But if you stand still or sit quietly and just let them get used to you being there, then they start to really engage in their regular song, and they, especially the little birds, will come really, really close. So I really love doing that when I get the chance on a really lovely day. We also put another bale of hay in for the sheep this week. Um, the hay ring, though, was so stuck in the mud. So their paddock is so wet at the moment. I like had my gumboots on and I stepped in around where the hay ring is, and like I almost went like lost my boot. Like it was above my ankle, the mud, and getting it out was really, really hard. So I tried to like lift the ring off, because normally what you can do is if you can get under it at the right angle, it's not too hard to like lift off the top and put aside so it can roll it down and put a new hay bale somewhere else and put the ring back over. But it was so stuck. So Adam had to get the hay forks, and I wish I'd taken video, but I was, in the middle of actually helping to do this. Get the hay forks in underneath part of the hay ring and jimmy it up, and so that we could like lever it off and pull it out of the mud. And it made that sort of noise as it came out. And so then he put a new bale a bit further down. We put the ring over that one, and then I spread out the one that had been mostly eaten to try and cover up some of that mud, so that there's a few dry patches for the sheep to sit in and to walk through, because they are getting so muddy, and I don't want their feet to get too wet, because that can start to cause issues with their feet. I am very much in the headspace of getting ready for my next market now, which is the Romsey All About Fibre and Yarn Market on the 13th of September. So really only a few weeks away now. And I'm excited to get back into markets. It has been quite a few months since I've done one, and then I'll be doing a few in the months following that as well. So very excited to be getting together my spring collection of colours to share with everyone. I have the 4 new solid colours that I dyed up and showed you last week. I've named this one Paper Daisy. So it's like a pinky purple. I've got the purple, which is a bluey purple, that I've named Jacaranda. And I have the yellow with a little bit of orange that I've named Daffodil, and this one, which is Marigold. So they're my new solids, and I've dyed up 4 of the variegated colours that I have recipes for from the past. So I've got wattle, iris, flowering gum, and fuchsia. So together they make a really good array of I've got yellows and reds, oranges and reds. I'll put a photo in, and then I've got my sort of blue, pink, purple selection there. And I do still have some of the fade sets that I showed you last week with the different techniques of dyeing this up. So all of these have the same colored speckles on them. They are just dyed in different ways, and you can go back and watch last week's episode where I talk about that, which was a lot of fun to do. So I have plenty of yarn hanging and drying all over the place at the moment. I need to get quite a bit more dyed up, and then I need to plan out what my stall is going to look like. I think I'm going to take out some of the older colorways that I have and not bring them to markets, or maybe break them down into mini skeins or put them into kits. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm just trying to think of how I can keep my stall fresh and looking different. And so I'm hoping to try and not have all my colors available all at once, because that's a lot of work. But also I'd like to really showcase these, because I'm really loving this color palette at the moment. I've also skeined up my Christmas yarn, which is this red and green. I have knit with something with it this week, which I will show you in a minute. And then I haven't listed this yet, but it will be coming in the shop really soon. I actually haven't thought of a name for it. I was just inspired by, fairly traditional Christmas colors and kind of like the candy stripes kind of situation, but I haven't come up with a name just as yet. I also wanted to talk about a nifty little gadget that I've only just started using in my dyeing process, and it's something super, super simple to stop the yarn from getting tangled on itself, and that is reusable zip ties. For a really long time, I was just using some old acrylic yarn that I had and tying it in a big loop around each skein to keep them separate, but often that would end up getting tangled as well. And I would just cut it off and then just re-knot it and use it over and over again. But over time, those bits of yarn have got shorter and shorter. So I thought I would invest in a new tool. So these really easily zip together. You can make them any size. And then when you want to open them up again, you just press the little button here and they unlock. Not like the traditional zip ties that once they're locked, you can't get them undone again. So I've got lots and lots of these. If I need to make longer ones to be able to go around my or a yarn, for example, I can join two together and then that would still give me a good circumference. They're quite strong and they don't pull out unless you want them to. So, yeah, I've been playing around with those with the dyeing I've been doing this past week as well. First to what I'm wearing this week, this is the Radiate by Joji Locatelli. This is the second one that I've made. It is out of the brown is Bennett and Gregor and the green is by Collins Crafts. And I made it, was that bracelet length? And it's really good length for doing things around the farm. And then when I get hot, I've been like rolling them up, which is also quite good. So the sleeves are not tight at all. I'm also wearing my self-drafted Sophie scarf out of my Aura base, and this is in the River colorway. So this is one skein of the Aura, and it makes a really lovely, nice, long scarf version. It's easily able to be wrapped around a number of times. Could probably do it one more, depends how loose or tight you want it. And yeah, it's lovely and light while also being quite warm. And I have plenty of colors of this. So I'm thinking that I'll probably end up knitting myself up one in the purple grape color that I showed you a few weeks ago, because I'd like to add another one to my own wardrobe as well. First to my painting honeycomb shawl by Stephen West, but I didn't actually work on this. I'm still counting it as a whip, but it did not see any love at all this week. It had been, and up until this past week, sort of my sit in front of the TV and do a few rows in the evening project. But I put it aside to focus on the next couple of projects that I'll show you. So hopefully I'll get back to it this week because I would like to get this one actually finished because it's been on the needles for years now and it needs to be done. So my first mindless knitting project, pretty mindless for me, was a sock out of my 2026 Christmas colorway, which I'm really happy with how the color distribution has come out. I had done a version of this earlier in the year and it wasn't as consistent as this in terms of where the dark and light colors hit. There were sections that were all reasonably dark, and then it went through a phase of like all being really light colors. So I wanted to experiment with how I twisted the skein of yarn to get the color to be more even throughout the skein. So I'm going to do a little bit more on this and then put in a cuff and call it done. And then I'll have plenty more of this ball to maybe make a little jumper out of or a beanie, something else that I can use as a sample for showing off my Christmas yarn. Once I finish the samples, I will then start to get it all ready to put up for pre-sale. My other easy, less thought-provoking project is the baby knit that I've been working on, the super simple tunic. I had finished the knitting of the booties, but I have now sewn both of them up. So I have a pair of booties. Oops, there they are, cute little things. And I now have a finished tunic as well. It needs some blocking. The end is rolling up a little bit there, but I think once I wet it and pin it out, that should fix reasonably well. Um, the pattern is written flat, but there are sort of basic directions about how to turn it into knitting it in the round, and so that's what I did for mine. I have put these cute little buttons on there, and I just need to block it and trim all the ends. They're all woven in. They just need to be trimmed once I finish blocking it. All of this is made out of Four Seasons Pure Merino 8 ply, and it is, I always forget the colours. The dark purple was pomegranate. This was called hydrangea, and the green is, I think it's called bottle melange, something like that. Uh, and I think they make a really cute little set, and these will be for my cousin's new baby that is due in October, and the baby shower is in a couple of weeks. So this is going to be blocked straight away after I finish recording today, and then I can get it all nicely wrapped and ready for gifting. My final active whip is my Galan by Marie Amelie Designs. I am using the sparkle thread held together with this grey, which is from Rainbow Yarns that I bought in Hobart at the Wharf Market. I now have the body on hold. I used all of the first ball of the grey on the body, and it's got a reasonable amount of length in it, to be honest, now that you can sort of see it off the needles and kind of loose. As I talked about last week, I decided not to follow the pattern in terms of decreasing on the side anymore and increasing through the middle on the front. Instead, I just have been knitting straight, and I think that it looks fine. And I did manage to do a little bit of surgery on the side where I had stopped doing the patterning and kind of went back. It is slightly it slightly skips a little bit through here, but I fixed it to the point where I can not really tell now that there was a mistake. I was able to make it look much cleaner. So really happy with that. I had sat over here in the sun on the weekend and sat it down and got a crochet hook and really thought through how to do it and where I needed to do the yarns over and the purling and all of that to make it look right. So really pleased with that outcome. And I have picked up for the first sleeve. Where are we? I feel like I've got it in a big tangle now. Here we go. I do, because I've turned it inside out to show you, because obviously I'm knitting it inside out. This is the right side as you'll wear it, but the wrong side as I'm knitting, because it makes those yarn overs and the knit two togethers in this pattern really stand out. But the sleeve, if I turn it the wrong way in, it's much easier to see. So I haven't done a ton on the sleeve, maybe 2 centimeters. I did fuss around with the sleeve pickup for quite a while, because obviously that first round, when you do the pickup, you have to be on the wrong side, so that you're or the right side, depending on which way, the opposite way to what I've been knitting, so that the seam will end up being on the inside of the garment. I tried to figure out if there was a way that I could do the pickup from the side that I was knitting from, like using a crochet hook, but it just didn't work out. And then I didn't know why in the end I bothered to try and be so fancy with it, because the first round that you do of the sleeve, which I'm sure is intentional, is just a knit all these stitches and purl the patterning on the side that I would normally be working from. So when you turn it inside out, that is just purl all the stitches and knit the two that are the pattern. So it wasn't a hard row to do. It wasn't trying to reverse engineer which side the yarn over needed to go on and whether I was doing a slip, slip, purl or a purl two together. It was literally just purls and knits. So took me a while for that to sink into my head, and then I was like, right, I'm just going to pick it up on this side and then turn it back in this side and continue from there. So I am keeping track of my rows, obviously, so that I can make sure that my sleeves end up being the same length. um there is no decreases on the sleeve. You just knit straight and then you do quite a lot of rapid increases before you do a cuff. So in terms of keeping track of things, it's going to be pretty easy because it's just pattern repeats, which is nice. And then I'll be able to go back and add more length to the body. But I'm thinking that you'll probably see it in a fairly similar state next week as well. So that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.